Shout out to Brandon Wellington, aka Tony, or should I say Toxic Tony from Sistas, because I told him I'd do a video kind of breaking down my gripes with the character. Now, let me put it this way. Simply put, everybody has their own opinions on certain aspects of dating. Me personally, I think there's no justification for being a home wrecker. I'm sure somebody out there could probably figure out something like, well, actually, Jeremy, please let me know in the comments. I just know my own personal code is to, not be a home wrecking type. That's just not me. It feels like a dishonorable move. Case in point, I've said this, long time ago. If you've been like a follower of the channel for a while, you know that when I went to college, I went to the one an hour from my hometown in Virginia, Liberty University, Lynchburg, Virginia, founded by the late Jerry Falwell Sr. And while I was a student there, it was no secret. Like it's kind of weird that it was kind of something that was told in a proud fashion, because for me, I didn't think it was that cool. Basically, Dr. Falwell, his wife, he stole her from his best friend. I think because the Falwell house is on campus, and I went on the tour like 3 times because it's where Dr. Falwell was buried, and in like the back of the house, and there's like a whole area where you can like view where he's buried, and it has benches and it kind of overlooks a good portion of Lynchburg. I always been up there. That was kind of like one of my thinking spots. So I went on the tour a few times, and the tour guide was like, here's all the letters that, never got sent. I think it was something like his friend would write letters to his girlfriend, then fiance. And then Dr. Falwell would volunteer to like send the letters off. And he never did. He would write his own letters to this chick, and then from there stole his friend's fiance. And I'm like, man, that ain't cool. And again, that's just me. I don't think that's especially to your friend. So when it comes to Tony, it's like you're trying to steal another man's woman. That's not a good look. Granted, when he was first introduced, he came across as kind of creepy, kind of stalkerish. The fact that, he knew a good portion about Danny before she even opened her mouth. Now, to give Danny some credit, she wasn't really feeling him, because it's like, well, she already has a man, and dude, you're just doing too much right now, so kind of back off. So, she went about her business. Then it just so happens that she went on this, wait a minute, I got to go back and look, because I don't know if I remember the exact details. Now, I know that Tony told Danny specifically, what was it like? I forgot the name of like the restaurant or bar that he asked her out to for one drink later when they got off of work. Because I'm trying to think, did Andy tell the ladies where her blind date was with Jordan? If she did, I'm like, wait a minute. I gotta go back and look. I never thought of it. Because if Danny knew the location, then she knew she was going to run into Tony. Because remember, Preston was home recovering from being super high from that vape pen, from last night. So he was at home, and I'm like, Danny never called or anything. So I'm like, Danny, I don't know, maybe she did arrange. Well, yeah, dang, that opens a whole new window of this. Okay, well, in any case, Tony claims to have, overheard all this stuff from Danny, talking loud on the phone, blasting music and this, that, and the third. So he knows about the Preston stuff, yet he's still pursuing her anyway. And there's the people who are like, well, Jeremy, go after what you want. And then I've heard people say, hey, as long as there ain't no ring on her finger, it's fair game. But then again, it's like the whole Jerry Falwell thing, that girl was engaged. So I don't know. But, in any case, I don't think that's an honorable move. I think he's like, I don't know. I feel like Tony, I have watched enough Tyler Perry shows to know that whenever a character is introduced, everything, hey, Wizards of Waverly Place, everything is not what it seems. And I mean, Well, then again, Tony didn't have the best first impression with me, so maybe he is a good guy. But no, I don't think so. It's like, I don't see you as a valuable man or honorable one. I mean, your coach from, what was it, college, taught Jordan and his boys, some things about life. But again, I don't think that's a honorable move whatsoever. So from there, they hang out when they're, leaving the restaurant, they're walking down the street, they take the bus. But then, you got Tony talking about how he's feeling Danny and whatnot. And then they go out on a well, let's just say the first date, if you will, because remember, Tony and Rich were the wing men. Sabrina and Danny were the wing women on the blind date. So they were just hanging out. But no, for Danny to go on this date, no, that's crap. Going over to Jordan's place for the barbecue and whatnot. Then Tony trying to dance with Danny and everything, knowing she has a whole boyfriend at home. Now, the biggest argument is this, but Preston has a whole fiance. Okay, so I've asked around. I asked Trinity, but I didn't get a response to this. And I hope he just, forgot to answer or something, because it's not a spoiler. At least I don't think it's a spoiler. I was asking for confirmation because to my recollection, Mindy went back to Texas because Preston told Danny that, because we know he got engaged. Mindy was introduced at the opening of the season. And Danny said to Mindy while she was sitting there when he was talking to Preston at the restaurant, hey, well, I'm going to drop Mindy off at the hotel and then I want to come over to your place so we can talk later. And then Mindy's understanding about how, yeah, I'm waiting for Preston, but he said he needs to sort these feelings out with you first. So Preston goes over there because remember, Danny called out how ridiculous this entire setup was. So Preston goes over there, and remember, if he did not come when he did to talk to Danny, she would have been killed by Jonah. So he then says he's going to spend the night, and Danny's like, wait, you ain't got to do all that because, fiance and everything. So eventually he does say, I want to stay a few days, and he's sending Mindy home. I'm pretty confident he said that. Now, I don't believe it was ever stated on screen that the engagement was called off, that Mindy gave back the ring. I only believe it was stated that she went back to Texas. Now, if you ask me, and like I said, I could be dead wrong about this, but I do feel like this is one of those things where rather than me forgetting a small detail, Tyler just never addressed it on screen, and we're kind of led to make our own conclusions until it is hopefully mentioned on screen and confirmed. But I don't think Danny, being Danny, would willingly suggest getting into a relationship with Preston. Remember, she was the one that initiated the conversation, and they went out for dinner for their first official date as a couple. I don't think Danny would have suggested getting into a relationship with Preston if she knew that he was still engaged to Mindy. So, like I said, you can call that my own personal headcanon until it gets debunked, because one of the arguments from some of the fans and even the actor for Tony is like, whoa. So you giving Tony grief because he's trying to, he's not stealing anyone's woman. I mean, Preston has a whole fiance. Now, look, if Preston is still engaged to Mindy, yet still shacking up and in a relationship with Danny, that's some real funky shit. But in terms of what I recall, not to mention my own quote unquote headcanon, because Tyler Perry hasn't confirmed it yet, I don't think he's still engaged. Now, Mindy being back in Texas and waiting for Preston, I believe that. Yeah, that makes sense. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case at all. But in terms of them still being engaged, I don't think that's what's happening here. But even if Mindy's still the fiance and yet Preston and Danny are still in a relationship, I still call foul. That's like, what's that dude's name? Floyd Mayweather, the isn't he like a boxer or some stuff like that? And he said in an interview once how he has like a bunch of girlfriends and whatnot. Yeah, he has a bunch of girlfriends, and that would be a pretty whack move to try to steal one of his girls, because one, you probably can't because he has way too much money. But at the same time, it's like he has titles for these women and they know their roles. So it's like if you try to swipe one, that's a dishonorable move. And with Tony doing the same kind of crap, basically he's like Steve Urkel, because we know this dude was hung up on Laura. It didn't matter how many boyfriends she had throughout the series. He was still going to try to make a move. And like growing, like Steve Urkel didn't age well, in my opinion. Dude, cultural icon, no doubt about that. Because I bought the entire Family Matters series for a very good price on eBay. And I remember a few years ago having a debate with my roommate. Fun story. Me and my roommate were literally supposed to start a podcast. And I was going to say, yo, we talk a lot of stuff, anime, TV shows from growing up. And even today, like, we ought to do something like that. Called like roommate debate, where we just chill and just talk about shows and movies and all, because we would have these hours going on and on about how, man, I think you're wrong about this. So he talked about how Steve Urkel, how he probably had like a personality defect or something like that. You know, they would probably call it some sort of like ADHD or something. I don't know the correct term, but it would be something like his the reason why he acted the way he did. But I'm like, yeah, but still, it wasn't cool. Like, I think Steve Urkel, one of his worst episodes, one of the most classic ones, when he got on the roof of the Winslow house because he said, I'm staying up here. He had a megaphone and everything. I'm staying up here until Laura Winslow agrees to go on a date with me. And then it started snowing and everything. Laura went up there because she pitied him because he was really freezing. And then he fell off the roof, and then their quote unquote date was her, you know, hanging out with him while he was in the hospital. And it's like, man, that's toxic as hell. No, that is not cool. Like, Steve, back off. Tony, back off. Danny is spoken for. Now, to be fair, I can't believe and it's hard for me to even say I'm being fair or showing Tony grace. I can't fully blame Tony because of the fact that Danny is willingly going out with him. How does that look? I mean, yeah, it's bad. I think Tony's trash for trying to push up on another man's woman. But the fact that Danny is still choosing to go out, it's like, oh, I'm going to this barbecue. Now, you could argue, well, Jeremy, at the restaurant, you know, Andy was like, well, I'll only go to Jordan's house for this barbecue if the other girls go too. So it's kind of like, well, Danny was caught between a rock and a hard place. Danny, as we saw in the last episode and throughout like 90% of the series, we know she is outspoken and she does not give a damn what the other girls say. She is going to say and do whatever she wants. So if she decided not to go over to Jordan's place to hang out with Tony because she has a boyfriend, so be it. That's well within Danny's character, because Danny gonna do what Danny gonna do. So for her to kind of be in a, well, my girl's kind of peer pressuring me, I guess I gotta go. No, she's going because she's uncertain about the Preston stuff, and yet she's too immature to speak about it. And as a result, she's hanging out with this other guy, and Preston's left at home confused, I don't know what. And I said before, you know, even though he got engaged and whatnot, Preston did not leave anything unsaid. He let Mindy and Danny know what's up. Danny's doing all this sneaky shit, and instead of addressing it, she just deflects. And when Preston tries to talk to her about it, she gets all abrasive about it and, you know, makes it seem like he's the problem. So, yeah, I think Tony's trash for trying to go after another man's woman. And you can't change my mind about that. I mean, even if, you know, I mean, it's just like, hey, to be fair, people are like, oh, why are you calling out Tony? But what about the other? Robin did the same crap because Andy was engaged to Gary. What was it, season 3? Whenever Robin was introduced, what was it, season 3, season 4? Andy was engaged, yet Robin still kept pushing up on her. And then from there, Andy would just go to Robin whenever she was having issues with Gary until eventually they did the nasty. So, and then the engagement was called off. Now, Tony could be doing the same thing. But it's just like, I don't feel like there's an honorable way. I feel like it's dishonorable and you're a trash person for doing it. And you can't tell me otherwise. Not to mention the way he was trying to, like, you know, hey, it looked like he wanted to square up with Preston when he caught, you know, these two in the parking lot giggling and whatnot. Because he's literally just saying, hey, when things don't work out with Preston, you know, call me up. Matter of fact, you want to get in the back of the van right now? Yeah, they were kidding and whatnot, but it's like, no. And he's like, hey, I'm going to wait over there by the door until you come over here, Danny. It's like, no, man, no, that's his girlfriend. Nah, Tony trash, y'all. Tony trash. So whatever happens with his character, Danny, she got it. She has it coming. She deserves whatever happens, because letting a good man go to mess around with the creeper because she's for these streets where Tony drives that creepy black van. So Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video.